Welcome back to Afternoon Live. If the idea of investing intimidates you, you are not alone, but our next guest is here to break it down to basics so you are not leaving money on the table. We welcome investment specialist Ange Matthews. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is intimidating and emotional sometimes talking about money for people, right?
It is, and that's why we called our company the Happy Investor Method, because straight off the bat, they hear the word happy and they think, tell me more.
That sounds good to me. Can you break down some myths that are maybe holding people back from getting involved in investing?
Absolutely. A common myth that people have is that they don't have enough money to start.
Yeah.
And this is a very average thing to have simply because so many people are still living paycheck to paycheck regardless of whatever it is that they make. However, I like to say put a toe in the water. You can start with as little as $50, $100, just to see if it's something that you enjoy. And once you see a bit of success, then you can start putting in more. And so it's not really can you afford to do it, it's can you afford not to do it.
Sure. You got to start somewhere.
You do.
Are there some other things that are keeping people from getting involved in the first place?
That it is extremely complicated and they're not smart enough.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people think that they have to be a rocket scientist in order to effectively manage and understand their money.
Yeah.
But it's not really true. If you understand basic math, and I do mean basic,
okay.
you know, like old school basic math that we learned in elementary and junior high school, you'll be just fine. Actually, there's so much knowledge, apps, courses, and even a book for investing for dummies. It really is so simple now that anyone can really do it if they just put in a little bit of time to understand the basics.
Okay, is there one more myth you can bust for us today?
I'm too old to start investing.
Okay.
That is a big one,
Yeah.
and we hear it a lot in our community, whether they're in their 40s or even into their 60s and they're about to retire.
Yeah.
A lot of people assume that the only time you could do it is in your 20s because oftentimes people say that's when you should start. But for a lot of people, they didn't really have a lot of additional income in their 20s. We're still trying to figure it out. We don't have a lot of surplus money. And so typically when people are comfortable to try it, it's realistically in their 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Sure.
And so that is a huge myth. You are not too old
Okay.
to start learning how to invest.
That's a great message. Are there certain investment priorities we should think about depending on our age range if we're in our 20s, 40s versus 60s?
Absolutely. In your 20s, you want to just get started. That's the best age to make the most mistakes and have it not ruin you.
Okay,
to
that
be
makes
honest.
sense.
Granted, you probably don't have as much money, but I think in your 20s, it's a great time to start building a habit with investing.
Yeah.
If you have kids who are in their 20s, you want to start putting in that principle of taking a bit of what they earn and starting to put it towards retirement or towards their first home. You really want to start breaking those generational barriers to accumulating wealth. So that's what you do in your 20s.
Okay.
Now, when you're in your 40s or your 50s, you want to start thinking about, can I realistically retire later in 10 to 15 years? Because the time to not think about that is a year before retirement.
Right,
You want to start
exactly.
thinking now realistically. And you also want to start thinking, well, if I'm not on track, what can I realistically do? Can I modify my 401k a little bit? Can I call the 1-800 number and ask them, how has this been performing? I'm trying to say that your money wants to have a closer relationship with you, and in your 40s and 50s, it's time for you to start paying attention rather than just hustling and trying to make more.
Okay. What about 60s and beyond, those people who have worked so hard for so long and they really do want to be able to retire comfortably, but it might feel scary?
At that point, you want to think about how much will you actually need for the next couple of years, whether that be 10, 20, or 30 years. Oftentimes, people think that they need way more than they typically would need. So you want to think about your expenses and you want to make a plan. You want to think to yourself, how much do I realistically need every single month? And hopefully by the time you're at that age, you might not have a mortgage as much, or your kids would have been off to college, and all of those other financial burdens are released. And once you're at that stage, you want to start thinking, well, how do I have more than enough to make sure that my kids might not have to take care of me?
Right.
How do I have more than enough so that when I pass on, I actually have something left to give to others that I love or causes? That's what you should start thinking about and making a budget around it.
Those are great priorities. Okay, so for somebody who is feeling totally overwhelmed, not even sure where to start, what's a good baby step to get into this type of the world?
Well, baby step is to start doing a little bit of research. Now, you can invest in just a regular fund that mimics the market. So there's a lot of S&P 500 or Dow Jones, whatever that is. That takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. When they say invest in the market, that's generally what they mean. But then you can think about companies that you know, love, and trust. Think about companies that are in your industry of work. Example, if you work in tech, what would it be to perhaps look at Netflix or look at Apple? If you happen to be in healthcare, what if it's a healthcare company or an insurance? Look at things around you to make it a little bit more comfortable. And then you can download an app, just type in top online brokerage or apps, and there are a couple that I love that make it so easy, and start with one share.
Okay.
Don't buy a ton if you're not used to what you're doing. Just instead of going out to lunch or dinner one day, just say, you know what, I'm gonna just put, $100 or $50 into this one company and see how it goes and see how it feels.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, talk about baby steps, one share, that's a great place to start. We can all kind of manage that internally. What about the concept of financial freedom beyond just dollars, right? What does that really look like? What's that aspirationally?
Freedom is something that really is different for every person. What freedom means to me, which is staying home with my kids if they're sick and not worrying if I have to go into the office, or taking my mom on a long vacation somewhere. That's what freedom looks like to me, being able to make decisions and not being stressed out about the financial considerations. Freedom for someone else might mean taking a sabbatical because they've been working for so many years and they don't want to wait till retirement. Maybe they just need a 6-month break to take a break and to take a beat. And so that's freedom. And I think when we think about it in that terms, it gives us the fuel and the encouragement to keep on going on and to really figure it out.
I love that, molding it to your own expectations and what's important to you, and that's the ultimate motivation too. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was so great chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
We learned so much today. Okay, we will have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.